All right, in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how to build an internal Slack assistant. Now, this is great for if you're managing communications within your Slack channel. Maybe you've got employees that you want to give them access to things that you store in an internal knowledge base so that you don't have to continuously have them reach out to HR or whoever handles those inquiries. So let's get into it. So first things first, you're going to have to upload information that this assistant can reference when answering any queries that it may be asked of. So the way that I've done this is I've got it auto watching a Google Drive folder. Now you can pick any different location that you want to store knowledge in, but in this case we're using Google Drive. And what it does is it watches a specific folder that you are going to upload your internal documents to. You could also do this for an external document storage where you're building a chatbot or something like that, and you want to give different information that the chatbot will use to answer questions. Maybe that's things like hours, your return policies, that sort of thing. So again, it's looking in a folder called internal knowledge base. As you can see, I've got knowledge base, internal knowledge. So first step is it's going to watch that folder. Next thing, it's going to download the file. And then what it's going to do is it's going to upsert it into a vector database. Now in this case, I'm using Pinecone, but you could use Supabase, you could use any different type of vector storage. Now, if you don't know what a vector storage is, it essentially takes documents, it breaks it down into numerical representations of information, and then based on how close the numbers are to each other in the vector, or you can think of it like a cube, then depending on how close those numbers are in the vector database, it's going to determine how similar those are. And this is how things like recommendation engines, whether that's on Amazon, Netflix, whatever, that's how they work. It vectorizes information and that determines how similar it is to something else. So the way that this works is it uses an embeddings model. We're using OpenAI in this case. Now you're going to have to create an OpenAI credential. If you don't know how to do that, you can just jump on over to platform.openai. What I usually do is I create a project, and then I'm going to jump into that project. I'm going to go to the overview, API keys, create new credential, name it whatever you want, select the project, create your key, copy the key, and then you're going to jump on over and you're going to put it in your API. And then if it works, it should give you a green box saying it was successful. The embeddings model, I've chosen this because when I created the vector database, so if we go to a database and we create an index, so let's go to a database, create an index. We'll name it whatever we want. In my case, as you can see, I've named it Slackbot, but you would name it whatever you want. And then when you create the dimensions, you can either set up by model, and you can see text embeddings 3 small, or you could just put that in the dimensions here. Whatever the case, make sure when you're creating it, you're picking the same model. Then default data loader, and then a recursive text splitter. And basically, so let's say we're uploading a chunk size of 1,000. It's going to be 1,000 characters. If it's got a chunk overlap of 200, that means essentially that last 200 characters of the first chunk size of 1,000 is going to get overlapped. So it's going to be repeated just to ensure it's providing context and it's capturing everything. So that is all there is to this. So what we're going to do is, as you can see, I've got in the internal knowledge base, I've uploaded something called company standards. So what I want to do is I want to test this workflow. We should see in a minute a new piece of information added to this Slackbot index. So if we jump in there, you can see it's broken down a bunch. It is in there now where it wasn't before. So now we can move on to part 2. So part 2 is building out your Slackbot. So in order to do that, you will need to go to api.slack.com. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a / command. I've called it ask. What we do is basically name it whatever you want. Put in a webhook. So if we go into this Slack assistant, I've got a webhook. Take this webhook, drop it in here, click save, and that will create that / command. So if we go into OAuth and permissions, what it'll do is it will create some commands. So it creates the commands. I've also added the channels read and the channels write, which you can do by adding an OAuth scope and picking whatever you'd like. And then once you've done that, you need to then install it into your workspace. So you could reinstall. What it'll do is it'll pop it up. It'll say what it's going to do. You can click allow. and then that will install it. So now we can send requests to this webhook. So what we'll do is we'll test the webhook, listening for a test event. We'll jump over to our channel, put in the command, and maybe we'll ask, what is standard 1? If it works, it should say that it is workflow has started. If we jump over, we should see it's received information, which it has. So then we're going to be sending this information into a question and answer chain. You're a helpful assistant, blah, blah, blah. You're taking the JSON body text, which is the query that I've asked. Now we can test that. We'll see what sort of output we're getting. So standard 1 is focus work sessions. Now if we jump over to here, we can see focus work sessions. Basically, this works the same way as the upserting of the documents did. It's got a chat model, which just using 3.5, I've used the same credentials. It's got a vector store, retrieving the documents from that vector store. When you're creating, I didn't go through that, but in Pinecone, create a new key, copy the key, and then of course you're going to jump in, do the same thing we did before, drop it in there. If it worked, you'll get a green box saying it's successful. And then we're using an embedding model, same thing as we were using before. As you can see, it's created a bunch of numbers. And then after that, it is sending a request, a HTTP post request to callback URL, which we are getting from the webhook. So anytime you run a webhook, it'll give you a response URL, and that's where we're sending it back to. So that's how you can build a simple Slack assistant that will allow you to query any information, put in a knowledge base wherever you may store that. Now you don't have to use a vector database. You could simply use any sort of database, or for that matter, you could even just have a Google Drive folder. If you want something like this built for your company, then feel free to reach out. There should be a book a call link below, or you can visit us at our website at 1000xsales.com. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.